As the most senior US official to visit Taiwan in a generation left, this is what was arriving. In the skies and seas around the island, China putting on a show of force, calling Nancy Pelosi's trip a provocation and violation of China's sovereignty. The White House calling for calm, as Chinese state media beamed out pictures of firepower and personnel. We are ready for combat and able to fight at any time. Taiwan says 27 Chinese warplanes breached its air defense identification zone, many crossing the critical median line before turning back. Taiwan scrambling aircraft and putting its missile system on alert. Posting this video, Taiwan's military says it's watching closely, promising to defend itself.
Taking bodies to the morgue. As fierce fighting in the Donbass continues to bear the brunt of Russia's offensive, Ukraine's military medics face an influx of dead and wounded soldiers. The intensified assault has caused Kyiv to launch mandatory evacuations from the Donetsk region, but some residents near the front line are holding out, fearing that there's nowhere to go. In this village near the northeastern region of Kharkiv, whilst Kyiv's troops are attempting to push back, a dozen towns were shelled Wednesday by Russian tank fire and airstrikes, according to the Ukrainian staff of armed forces. Speaking Wednesday night, Ukraine's president dismissed the idea that talks with Moscow would be productive, after attempts at peace talks in March failed to bring change.
Final inspections for the Sierra Leone flagship carrying Ukrainian grain. It's heading to Lebanon, where there's been food shortages and high prices for months. Russian, Ukrainian, Turkish and UN officials checked the cargo while the ship docked in Istanbul. They're part of the Joint Coordination Center that was set up here after a deal to resume Ukrainian grain exports last month. Carrying nearly 27,000 tons of corn, the ship departed the Ukrainian port of Odessa on Monday. An estimated 20 million tons of grain has been stuck in Ukraine since the start of war.
Some 100 IDF reservists now joining the ranks of active duty units taking posts near Gaza on Wednesday. This as the closures around the Strip remaining in force for the second day in a row following the arrest of Islamic Jihad's West Bank leader in Jenin. IDF forces disguised as Palestinians arrested the Islamic Jihad chief Bassem Saadi as well as his son-in-law in a raid on Monday night. Saadi has been wanted by Israel for actively building up the Islamic Jihad's power in Jenin and elsewhere around Judea and Samaria. Also, several deadly terror attacks in Israel this past year attributed to Islamic Jihad. And Saadi's son-in-law, while not targeted for arrest in the raid per se, considered a high-value target as well, as he is Saadi's close aide.
I'm sorry for what I've done and what I will do. I will attempt to assassinate Elizabeth, Queen of the Royal Family.
You may have woken up in the dark this morning. That's because Eskom implemented stage 2 rolling blackouts. This will continue until 4 p.m. this afternoon. It's then back to stage 4 until tomorrow midnight. The Power Utility says there's a shortage of generation capacity.
So I had a look at the statistics that Eskom was putting out on a daily basis, and it seemed to me that they actually did load shed on the weekend, but they didn't actually advise us of the load shedding, so they did it surreptitiously as they've done in the past. But I thought it wise on Tuesday to go out and warn the public to prepare, because the last thing you want to do is be unprepared when there's load shedding all over the show.